Every put more through and already put already.
What is music? That's the you play music?
Yeah.
You ready? Process.
Yeah.
Let's start.
I got cookies. It's fake. They
Who
could.
will be
They
the swap. Too much stress really from here. So this variant really in China there's Michael Wilson. Michael variant.
Good morning. Yes, welcome to our Sunday service, and let's all rise and sing the first holy song, My Cross. Okay, My Cross. Let's sing with the LA band. And cleanse from impure. Hallelujah, Lord of the Spirit, now here and victory. The Lord will never get to me, and run my hand. If I the strength I had, I shall achieve it. I sacrifice to His will, no trial I cannot bear. I give my life to go His way, no one can turn me back. I surrender the cross and bless from endure. Hallelujah, Lord of His Spirit, now here is victory. So public Wi-Fi is working.
Slow. Wow, I can't really. It's slow.
That's not too funny. So are you using public Wi-Fi?
Huh?
Are you using public Wi-Fi? I can use my son the other day. So let's keep that from the national.
Yeah. No, you know, Sam? Do you have a password for that one?
I don't know. That one is erratic. So,
Because it's easy also.
mine is okay, but 16897
Say
5 yeah. 6897 then exclamation mark.
6987.
6897.
You have a funny number.
How about the public Wi-Fi? Public Wi-Fi is just in front here.
public, if you don't want Wi-Fi, it's announced. You want?
Yeah.
No, I can't show them on computer. I can't do it on computer. I don't know that.
Okay, use my. I'm gonna use mine, 16897. Joe will mix it up. Six, 897. Unless now. Have an offer to bring in. By your side, can you give the opening prayer?
Let us pray. I please to you, wonderful sovereign Lord, someone Heavenly Parent, the true Parent of mankind. Today is Sunday. March 28th, 2022. This Washington D.C. Family Church, 1610 Columbia Road, to celebrate this day of my son. Thank you so much as we brought us safely and every parent good spirits and inviting you officially to be with us as is written toward your name will be at their midst. We are praying the Heavenly Parent for the one who is giving the Son to inspire him, so that the Heavenly Parent, everything comes from yourself to his word. Thank you so much. We prepare ourselves to receive your word so that they to be productive and sharing with other people. Thank you. Accept us in your heart. We pray all this on behalf of all the people that in our name and Alphonse Pray. Let's take the family honor to God. You.
Oh, I'm sorry. Please. Now let's sing Spring Song of Eden.
Joyfully singing together our song, praising our King every day. Here in the garden together we'll be, singing your songs of joy. Oh, give thanks to the God, and all people singing new songs of His love. Joyfully dancing together with song, blessing our Eden rejoice. Joy in the garden together with us, singing new songs of joy. Come give thanks to the God and all people, praise for His happiness joyfully share it together our love. Here in the garden of peace, come to the garden, my friends, singing new songs of joy. Come to the garden, my friends, singing new songs of joy.
So, Chilo group after.
arose of love, roots and tidings of love. Earth and heaven are one. The Lord's Christ in praise, sing strong, rejoice. Bring them forth 1,000 years in the true holy land of God. In heaven's light, vibrant colors above. Light of the Spirit, true and love light our way. As the Lord rise in praise, exalting and sing glory, bring the forth 1,000 years in the holy land of God. All shines in glory divine. Highest praise all the mountains. Heaven's grace is revealed. As the Lord rides in praise, sing strong and sing glory. Wonders born in 1,000 years. Holy Lamb of God. Long to all, earth and heaven beside. As our flag waves through the seas, freedom waves and home. As my hopes rise in praise, exalting and rejoice. Happy born 1,000 years, holy Lamb of God.
Let's request our senior pastor to lead us the family pledge. What pledge? Family pledge, yes.
내 standing by to Heavenly Parents and True Parents. 전쟁인 하나님 부모님의 장부모님께 경배. Family pledge number 4. Our family, the honor of Johnny Group, pledges to build the universal family encompassing heaven and earth, which is the Heavenly Parents' idea of creation, and better the world of freedom, peace, unity, and happiness by centering on true love. I do.
Thank you, Reverend Songa. Now let's look at the person on the right or left, all around us, and say, good morning. How are you today?
At least my sisters aren't gonna go crazy.
Never been in hospital, no problem. If you start, you get
Where? On the message.
Yeah. You always post stuff and I always do them. I was you.
We don't want to.
Yeah, we can just go ahead.
Now let's welcome our sermon giver today, Reverend Henry Mumai. Let's give him a big hand.
Yeah, I know we have a short time because you all had, we might need to join the meal of the summer, right? And also, we have guest after. So we'll just delve into it. Actually, I 40 minutes something, but now has to be reduced to 20 or 30. So we're going to run through it. Jacob, you have that big of you? All right. So, yeah, I did it. Oh. Oh. Okay. So actually the title was really bad, but I still feel we need to hammer this pitch of renewed pride. So we're still going to talk all about it. The reason the title of the sermon was really bad was, you know what day today is? Today is a vernal equinox. Anybody know? No? No idea? There's some 4 very special days in a year, which, depending on your spirituality, some people believe they are very special days. There is the solstices and there is the equinox. Equinox means the day and night is equal day and night. Yeah. And the solstice is the longest day in the year and the shortest day in the year. Some spiritualists believe that in those moments, they are special, that you can actually turn the course of history or your life or something. So there's some people that do very special ceremonies. It's also important to know that according to Tommy Brown, any of you know the guy who does the trips to Egypt and the Potomac?
Yeah.
He says this church location is a very special place. So actually, a few years, he came here to meditate on the equinox or the solstice because he believed there is a special spiritual power in this location of our church. Because the 16th Street actually marks the line that the sun rays pass. So 16th Street is actually the center of the District of Columbia. You know that, right? Yeah. And it is set in a way that it is directly following the path of the sun. So it's a very special place we are in, and it's a very special day today. Now, today also is the vernal equinox. That means it's the beginning of spring. So a lot of people believe the new life, begin at this time. And that's why I wanted to call this sermon Revive, because I believe also that, we can begin new life today in the church and in the community. Now, recently, I've been looking at life in very many ways. You realize for the longest time, people couldn't practically explain life. Also, people could not explain thinking, the process of thinking, or the process of feeling. Yeah? So think about it. If you're very happy, but you're not aware that you are happy, what happens?
You're not happy.
You're not happy, right? So, consciousness and awareness. The awareness of being aware of something is very important. Recently, people are trying to give tangible descriptions of what life is. And even more recently, psychologists and scientists and biologists are trying to come together to try to define what consciousness is. Now, I don't know, have any of you ever seen the psychological experiment where, like, if I put my hand here, my left hand, yeah, and I'm going to jump the video, so I'm just going to explain. And I have my other hand here, and you put a fake hand here, yeah? If somebody strokes my hand at exactly the same time as I'm looking at the fake hand, my mind begins to associate the fake hands with my left hand. And if somebody was to, like, pierce the fake hand, I would feel a lot of pain. And that's a problem. You can try it, you can experiment it yourself. That's the video I wanted to show, but I'm realizing in the interest of time and the slowness of whatever, it doesn't work. So bottom line is, perception in physical circumstances is not exactly as obvious as it looks. So you ask yourself how you think. Yeah? So just for 30 seconds, let's think about thinking. Let's say you were a brain. Your brain, you're inside, the bony skeleton of your head, and you're trying to see. What does that mean? How does a brain see? Any ideas? I mean, of course you can't see. You're inside, somebody's head and skull and everything.
They see two sensors.
Yeah?
Sensors.
So they sense. But what you're sensing, like when the light hits my eyes, what is hitting my eyes is different shades of light and all that. Actually, it is now proven that what we call seeing is a perception. The brain assimilates so many different things of when it saw this and what conclusion came about. And after a history of all the things it have ever seen, whenever a light ray comes to the eye, it creates a kind of hallucination or a guess, and it gives you the best guess. So there are many experiments, and later maybe if we have time we can look at that video. But it shows like ways that mind play tricks on you. Now, lately, even our own perception of ourselves have seriously been challenged, mostly because of too much drug use, too much misinformation. When we first heard about fake news, it was a very obvious word because news meant it's true, right? If ever you read something in the newspaper, it meant it was true. That was news. If you saw it on television, it was true because it's news, and they usually took their time to research. And whatever they wrote, they would stand by it. Even if they made a mistake in their research, they would publish a big correction the following day or whenever it is that they find out the truth. What about today? You can't even definitively talk about science itself, because we have scientists who are saying these about climate change, and we have scientists who are saying the opposite about climate change. The COVID-19, we were bombarded. We couldn't tell what is the truth, because some are saying it's fake, some are saying it's real, some are saying the vaccination, once it's put in your body, you're now in control of Bill Gates, whatever it is. But at one point, you can't really tell what is the absolute truth. So news is not news anymore. It's like there's fake news and there's something that could be considered real news. Right now, the elderly people in Russia today totally believe that Russian-speaking people in Ukraine, in the side of Ukraine that borders Russia, were being persecuted and killed by Nazi-led Ukrainians who are not, native Russians. So to them, Putin is a hero. He sent his army to do a special operation to liberate their brothers who are being persecuted, and they are being shown a few videos of people running to the Russian army and encouraging them to come and really being happy to have been liberated. That's, they're saying, more than 70% of the elderly Russians today. Of course, we all know, since we're in America, that the rest of the world believes that Russia just invaded a country where they're bombing maternity hospitals and killing women, children born and unborn. Yeah? That's the nature of today's time, fake news. Closer to us. Somebody somewhere, probably the majority of the people who are not in this community, believe that this community is a riotous community, despite True Mother telling them to sell the church. They don't want to sell. They don't care about True Mother's providence. Some of them are told they're stuck on True Father. They don't respect True Mother. This is Mother's time, so they can't really get stuck on True Father. Who determines what's true? Who determines what's correct? What is real? So that's why I was thinking about this concept of internalizing reality. If we are happy, but we don't know that we are happy, then we are not happy. If we are special people, but we don't know that we are special people, then we are not special.
Wow.
Right? But if we truly understand what, for example, this represents, this building, then that gives it life, it makes it real. So even though we've gone through this speech many times, I felt like it's very important for us to reinforce our own understanding of why are we here. What was the meaning of this building? Why is it that we should still give it value? What is the reality? Because people will give us different shades, and if we are not careful, we might even, fall into that trap. So let's look at the speech. True Father's speech had these subtitles. It was arranged in a very historical way. They will tell us True Father talked many wonderful things about different places. But today's sermon, and I suggest when we talk to them, we don't need to know or discuss about the specialness of everything that Father did or went in the world. We are not there. The people who are in those special places, it's their duty and responsibility to take responsibility for those areas that they are at. Somebody comes and tells us, oh, we, True Mother have said sell kindergarten, so what is in Columbia Road Church? My answer, I don't care about kindergarten. I'm not responsible for kindergarten. God, the world, spirit world, my descendants, my ancestors will not ask me about kindergarten. So what happens to kindergarten is not my responsibility. But we are here in Columbia Road Church. We are responsible for Columbia Road Church. Let's talk about Columbia Road Church, right? The speech True Father talks about Adam and Eve. Actually, the intro, first, True Father was talking about the import of what he has done in his life was, the import of Christianity. Eventually, in the first part, he talks about Adam and Eve and the relationship with God. And he's talking about oneness. We'll go into the detail. That is the beginning. So True Father is taking us way back to the Garden of Eden in the beginning. The next topic he talks about oneness. The topic, can anything be offensive or ugly in the object of love, is essentially delving into even when you go to the bathroom, you don't mind about your own smell. But I don't think you want to be in the bathroom with anybody else when they're doing this stuff, because you are not one with these other things. Whatever you are one with, it can never be ugly or smell bad. So God is trying to say, Adam and Eve, if they became completely one with God, it doesn't matter how dirty or ugly or whatever they would be. It's talking about oneness. Then what would make God want to dwell in this church? And he emphasized the same thing. That's why he came from Adam and Eve wanting to be one. God will want to dwell in this church if we are one with him. We have to be one with God. Then God will be attracted to live here. And he talks about the significance of us having this church in Washington. And this is a large space. All those quotes that we normally do, even Pastor quoted last weekend, they come from this section. This part distinguishes the location of this church being in Washington, D.C., and its relevance to the Washington Monument, and why Washington Monument was done in Washington to start with. What could they do? Why don't we talk about the Yoido area, for example? Why don't we talk about the New York one? In fact, the speech True Father gave in London, I think about 2-3 years later, as a commemoration of here, he talked about the New York rally, Madison Square Garden, as if it was formation stage of this rally. All the 3 speeches that True Father gave at that time were built up to this rally. This one was done in 40 days, and True Father was not playing. It was like life and death. So he explains the significance of the church being in Washington. And then he talks about our charge to the future, basically saying, now that we're in DC and we have a church, are we going to be less effective than when we did not have a church? So without a church, we went all over the place witnessing. Now that we have a church, do we just sit and get comfortable? And he says, you have to go out. Now you have to make this church like the pillar and go out even more. And then he goes now into the future and gives charge, not in terms of witnessing, but in terms of you as a person. What is your charge? Once you understand that, then your job is to restore the dignity of manhood and womanhood. And it talks about honor and things like that. So he concludes by saying each person has the responsibility to make themselves clean in the sight of God. So in Adam and Eve, I'll just quote this part. Adam and Eve were a manifestation of that invisible love, and through loving each other, they would become deeper in God as well. Therefore, the more intense the love they felt for each other, the deeper God could dwell within them, because their love was centered on Him. And He was talking about grow up and they're singing. Adam is running around singing, and eventually he meets Eve. And before he was loving God, now he's loving Eve. Is God jealous? He said, no. So long as their love for each other is centered on God, then that's an even bigger multiplication. And on the part where he explains about the offensive, I explained the background of it, but the quote that to me kind of personifies what he was trying to say is, we're talking about restoration and about uniting the world in brotherhood. But unless all these things are centered upon true love, there is no meaning or substance in them. So true love is the core, and true love makes us love one another, love God. Then he says, what would make God want to dwell in this church? And there are several nice, real big passages, but this particular one, to me, speaks in what True Father's heart was at this point. Put yourself in the position of God. Will he think, since the Mormons built this big mambo temple, now I have a bigger house, I want to go and stay there? Or even though this temple is smaller, because the members put their heart and labor into it, I would rather stay here. That's the key question. Does the size of the building determine where God stays? God isn't crazy for power or money or economy. No matter how big a temple man builds, in the sight of God, it may be nothing. It could be less than dust. The important thing is the spirit and the soul inside. The size of the building will not determine the dwelling place of God. So should we sell this church and go buy a beautiful glass building like Bishop King suggested?
No.
No, absolutely not. And reason to even, was it last Sunday that we had the conference with the President Alkimi? The public one, about 2 weeks. And then he was talking about it, and we were saying, no. Did you read the speech through Father gave on that day? Because it specifically answers the problems they are raising. True Father already answered. The only question about whether we should keep these or not, whether God dwells here or not, has nothing to do with bigger size, whatever. We bought it when it was old and ugly. So it being old or ugly is not an issue. When True Father bought this church, it was run down. So unless you're telling us True Father himself was crazy, didn't know what he was doing, then telling us that this building is old doesn't make sense. Okay, so God would dwell in this place if we allow the significance of having this church in Washington. You want to read this for us? Maybe because it's spring.
Washington is the nation's capital, and what we are doing here is important. For example, this is the first Christian church we have occupied. Moreover, it's the first time we have put our symbol on a sprite high in the sky. When we bought Berrytown, I gave instructions to take down the symbol which our members put up. Why don't I say the same thing here? This symbol will remain eternally up in the sky in Washington because it represents a symbolic victory. This is the tower which the Unification Church has built in the nation's capital, and from this time on, our symbol will remain on that tower. We are trying to show the entire world what we are, where we are, and what we're going to do.
Thank you. So, if we have to even follow their argument of whether it's special or not, according to True Father, is it special or is it not? When we bought Bariton, I gave instructions to take down the symbol which our members put up. Why wouldn't I say the same thing here? Think about that. And think about the lies we were told when the symbol was actually being removed from up there. You all remember? True Father said he will not say that symbol to stay there. He starts by saying why he wants it up in the sky. Concludes by the same. True Father wants us to know, people, the world to know where we are, what we are, where we are, and what we are going to do. By removing the symbol, we are negating our own basis and foundation. It means that we have not studied this speech. And part of the reason I felt like we need to look at this speech again today is because one of the contributors last Sunday when we were doing the reflection, I think I can speak loudly. So when we were doing the reflection, somebody said, what is the meaning of Hundoke? If every morning we'll meet to study Hundoke. What is Hundoke? We're studying father's words, true parents' words, right? True mothers, true fathers' words. So we in Unification Church, especially in the United States of America, are trying to tell each other, trying to tell the world that studying true parents' words is a core value in our church. But then we're going to turn around and say, forget about True Father's speech. You know, True Father said many things. Does it make sense? You know? So, and the next one is, I'll read the red parts only. I think you've read these many times. So, True Father said that he built this as a living monument of heart. It's supposed to be living. It's not supposed to be time-checked. It's a living monument of heart. It should read from generation to generation. It's hardly a few years since True Father passed away. And we're already trying to say, oh, that's gone, that's history. Don't worry about it. The spirit of the Washington Monument victory of 1976 would be immortalized. That means that you should not separate the history or value of this church from the history of the Washington Monument. The purpose for which True Parents bought this church is to immortalize the spirit of the Washington Monument. Of course, the inverse is true too, that when we are fighting for this church, we have to understand what was the spirit of the Washington Monument, because we have to live by it. We can't just want to have the church and not want to have the spirit behind it. But they too need to understand. They cannot claim the victories of True Parents in the United States, which culminated in Washington Monument, and want to separate that from this church. Because True Father was very clear. Therefore, this church is standing on the greatest of all foundations. Why? Why Oh, by the way, President now Kimi or Dr. Young or Bishop Kim, it's standing on the greatest of 10-year foundation or 1-year foundation of yesterday, of today, of all foundations. Why? Back to the speech and the way True Father organized it. Because the Washington Monuments period was a combination of the history, not of Father, but of God. God prepared Christianity to receive True Father. The country that eventually stood in the position to represent Christianity is the United States. That's why being in Washington, D.C., the capital, was important. Even the rally in New York, the bigger town, was just a precursor and a foundation level to come to be the Washington Monument Rally. Because if Christianity failed in America, then Christianity would fail to do its work to prepare for the second coming. So the whole history of the second coming of Christianity being prepared, Christianity preparing for True Father's coming, is linked to the Washington Monument. And Father being received and accepted at the Washington Monument solidified both the purpose for Christianity and of the United States as the representative of Christianity. Does that sound like one of the foundations, or maybe a small cog in the process? This is the trust, this is the root, the center line. If you destroy that center line, then whatever else you're doing is the periphery. So, before anybody comes to lectures or give us ideas about how to be vertical, they ought to read this speech over and over. In fact, I suggest that we need to insist that Dr. Young and President Now Kimi need to do a handicap based on this speech. Yeah. To the world, to the whole of America, before they come to tell us we should follow. And explain it. We want Dr. Young to explain these things in today's providence that gives it a right, vertical principle of selling this building. I would like to hear that explanation of this speech from Dr. Young or from Now Kimi, President Now Kimi, explaining how or what this speech meant, that somehow gives the room in principle to sell this church. And lastly, how far will this symbol shine? It will start here and go on until we make the entire world the holy place of God. So that has not been accomplished yet. It is so deep and far that before we reach it, we may face many setbacks and take much pain. But nothing will stop us until we reach the ultimate destination. This has to be our goal. Even if we have to die, no matter what we have to do, that is the church. That is the church from True Parents. And he says, like Christopher said last, do or die, march forward, no retreat. We never learned to retreat. So we'll have more meetings with the headquarters. But I take it that if we understand this principle well enough, then our charge is not to retreat, it's not to sell. Our charge is to make good trouble in this city. If you should say to God, you need a better place to stay, why don't you go down to the White House or Capitol Hill? God would reply, I want to stay right here. God is not drawn to the size of the building, but the intensity of the desire to serve and bring mankind into salvation. So I dare say, Washington Times or any of our more glorious so-called buildings or whatever, not even the White House, if our intensity and love for God here in this building, then God will go out here. God has been ashamed, and you have been called here to serve the dignity of God. Now, these words couldn't be more true. It's almost as if True Father was talking to us today, rather than at that time. Because we have seen this. Remember, we opened the sermon with the story of parallel realities? The reason I started with that is, at this point, I want to emphasize, we should not feel accusation to them. Whatever is surrounding our leaders or those who have left this place, their perception is such that they're telling themselves they're very good people. They're doing this for God. Or they need to send money to do this and that. But even though there's parallel realities, fake news or not fake news, we have to find a way to understand when we are happy, we should know we are happy. When we are thinking, we should understand that we are thinking. We need to think about thinking. We need to be aware that we are aware. So that when fake news bombard us and all these kind of pseudo-principle, pseudo-internal guidance come at us, we'll be able to steer us right through, and we can tell what is heavenly and what is not, what is principled and what is not principled. God has been shamed, and you have been called here to save the dignity of God. You are here to save his prestige, so that he can really declare to the world that he is God. You can also uphold the true parents and save the nation and save your face. Save your face. All right? And lastly, or second lastly, you are restoring the dignity of manhood and womanhood. So this is about you as an individual person. We've talked about America, the history, and the church. You as a person, he asks, True Father asks, will you promise that you will save my dignity and honor? What say you? True parents asking, will you promise that you will save my dignity and honor?
Yes!
Oh,
yes! Yes!
In addition to that, you men must preserve the dignity of man, which has been lost in the sight of God. God, and there's some speeches going on here, but then he comes to the part of the woman and he says, you should say, God, I am a true woman. There is no deceitfulness in me. I'm a true, honest person, and I'm honorable in your sight. I have no shame. We're still praying about Greg Carter. We've lost a lot of people recently. This is very important. I don't care what you believe in. In fact, I don't care if you're blessed, not blessed, you're mourning, not mourning, you're Christian, Muslim, whatever it is. But before you die, you should be able to say that to yourself. You should be able to say to yourself and to heaven that I have no shame. Anything that we have done that's shameful, we should repent. We have to clean ourselves. It's the only way we can have the basis and the foundation to stand and proclaim the things we proclaim of this place. Be shameless. Not shameless as in doing shameless things, but shameless because you have no shame. And lastly, the responsibility of each person. You possesses the love of God. That's without shame. Somebody miswrote there. You possess the love of God without shame. Looking straight up to the eyes of God and straight out to the eyes of the people. You are truly noble sons and daughters of God. Once we've cleansed ourselves, once we've fully understood, we should know who we are. And that's exactly what true parents tell you. You're nothing short of noble sons and daughters of God. Each one must become a shameless person in the sight of God, and in the sight of husbands, all the wives are to be shameless. And in the sight of wives, husbands are to be shameless. In the sight of children, parents are to be shameless. Then your perfection and the completion of restoration will be finished. The love of God is the standard. I think we know where we stand. We know who we are, and we know our church. Don't let nobody bring fake news to guilt trip you. We have to stand strong. Anybody know the song Sanai? I don't know if they have it here. Okay, I'll tell you a short story. If he finds it, then we can sing it. If it doesn't, then we won't. So one time, True Father called all the 36 couples together, and he told them, you know, I was just kidding. This whole thing about divine principle is not true. Please go home. And most of the 36 couples were crestfallen, except one, Tiger Park. Any of you know about Tiger Park? Maybe you've heard about him. Tiger Park looked at him and said, Father, if you don't believe in it, you can go home. But I believe in what you taught us, and I will do it. That's Tiger Park. And this song was his song. He used to love it, and it's a determination song. It goes like this. Run through the wilderness, run and run. Today, who can do tomorrow, Mongolia? We move one day and night, like floating water. It's the native ground, so many years have passed. Some gone, we go run and run, run. We will never stay alive for the sake of our cause. To the horizon of wilderness, run and run. Will the river you know, in a chest as we move on. Remain proclaiming to all in these a battlefield. Sees my sin faces behind, their wings across the air. My body, beat away, run and run, remain. No attachment to our lives, for the sake of our cause. Yaltarenu, Sana, yes,
Many, many thanks, Reverend Bungain. So these are not empty words, but these are historical words. So I'm an historical person. Everyone here is a historical person because we are here in this historical place. So now let's go to the offering. Let's call the second gen. Anaida, can you give us the offering after everyone gives the offering?
因我知道有时我仍会求你带领我，使我不会再退缩。我需要有你在我生命中，好让我一生的学你多样式，使我能成为你所喜悦的儿女，使我的生命能够彰显你荣耀。
Brothers and sisters, please join me in prayers. Dear Heavenly Parents and true parents, we come together on this day to thank you for letting us to wake up this morning and come to church still together amongst your presence, Father. We pray that whatever we learn today, we're able to go out there and inspire the lives of many others as well. We pray that as we learn about the importance of everything in life, that we can be able to learn about the importance of whatever step we take, that every setback, Lord Father, is only there to help us to work harder to reach our end goal. We pray for those who were able to make it here today, may you be with them as well. Pray for the families, wherever they're going through, may you also be with them. Pray for those who are lacking, whether it be financially, spiritually, whatever it is, Lord Father, that you provide for them as well. We commit this offering to your hands, that you can use this to help to advance our progress, Lord Father. That we can able to move forward to inspire the lives of many others and also spread the gospel throughout the entire United States of America and also those communities as well. We pray for those who are going through a hard time right now, those who are in combat zones, those who are losing lives on Father, you be with them. Especially pray for Cameroon, you be with the brothers and sisters back home. Especially throughout the sanctions, pray for Russia, Ukraine, and you be with the children, their father, the parents, the kids who are losing their lives over reasons that they should be losing lives for. Pray for those who are on sick beds right now, and also be with them as well, you got protect them. We pray, Father, for those two of us who are in here right now, who are going through hard times, Lord, that we do not know about. May you each and every single one of us, oh Father. That you can be the shoulder we can lean on, you can tell us it's going to be okay, that you're with us throughout every step of the way. We pray this to be with us, guide us, and protect us, as I pray this in your Christ's name, and in my name, Father, Mankana, Son of Mary, and Son of Mankana, bless our family, on our time, you.
Thank you, Andrea. Let's go to our announcements. Let's call on our senior pastor, Reverend Songa.
Thank you. You want to put it on? What is it? Should just raise the volume. Raise the volume. Okay. And looks like turn it up again. I don't know what's going on. Maybe no, okay, it's live, but don't worry about that. Just go there and press play. The lower near the volume. Maybe we have an internet problem. There you go. Brothers and sisters, please give a hand to Romungai for the sermon and very extensive explanations of the new pride. We need to know who we are. We need to know what we are doing here. And first and foremost is really to recognize that the reason why Adam and Eve could not fulfill the will of God because they disobeyed the commandment of God. And when we change the word of our true promise, is once again the manifestations of the disobedience towards our beloved Christ. So, which means that we need only to be absolute with the word of true promise. Absolute. So, yes, we're going to have this. Maybe we're going to change also the way we'll be doing the sermon, a little bit shorter, but have the president when he's speaking that our way of showing love and unity with America. And this morning we'll be having Reverend Patton coming here. He's going to offer the presentation for the national program and goals that they already know. They had it last weekend in North Carolina. So since we were not there, we couldn't go there. So he'll be coming here today to make the presentation. So he said he's going to take about 30 minutes and going to open up for question and answer. I believe also the last point I want to make is about our elder brother, Greg Carroll. His ceremony, funeral should be on Saturday, if I have the good memory, or Sunday. It's going to be Sunday, right, the 27th. Yeah, in unity with our brother, let's forget what we have received as arrow. Let's forget that we might have our time together, but let's unite with the heart and only give him the best farewell. I suggest to the chairman, if we could buy flowers to take on that day, that would be very wonderful thing as voluntary church. Okay, let's prepare for it. We're going to discuss, probably we might not have Sunday service for that day because everything going to start at 10:30. And 10:30, we should be ready to go on the spot where everything will be taking place. And then we're going to go to the one job. So that's what I wanted to share with you. Please, let's go straight here and listen to the Sunday service today. Thank you.
People's curiosity, interest, and development of spirituality has been growing over time. Okay, let's continue to read. A second sign that the first blessing is being restored in the present era can be seen in the historic trend towards the recovery of the freedom of the original mind. In the present era, as people struggle for freedom at the cost of their lives, the zeal to gain true freedom has reached its height. This is an indication that we are now entering a new era in which we can attain individual perfection, long denied by Satan, and freely go before God. So what the principle is saying is that our original mind seeks freedom, particularly this freedom of faith or religion, of belief in God. And although humanity has striven for this kind of freedom throughout history, more than ever before, there
It's life, right?
No.
No, that's not life.
is this strong desire and almost expectation to be free, to be able to pursue that. I think, one example of this is the strong Ukrainian resistance to the Russian invasion. Maybe Putin might have expected that, people would just kind of accept that the people with power and who are more stronger, as long as you show that you have a lot more troops or weapons or the army, that those are people will just accept it and basically, surrender. But this spirit of this desire towards freedom has really strengthened this sense of, how do I say this? It's like they cannot accept being ruled over, something like that. And I feel like this desire for freedom is an original mind's desire, and it's growing stronger over the years. A third sign of the renewal of the first blessing is the restoration of Trinitarian value in the present era of cultural sphere based on Christian ideals. As the world has been greatly influenced by the teachings of Jesus and the Holy Spirit, who are true parents of humankind, the way has been open for all people to become godly children. This trend is evidence that God's second blessing is being restored. Okay, so according to principle, the growth of this Christian cultural sphere and this trend towards being part of this global family are signs that the second blessing is being restored. Kind of reminds me of the song, We Are the World. We are the world, we are the children. Yeah, but basically, the sense that we're one family, beyond borders, nationalities, ethnicities, this kind of sense is actually more of a recent trend. Part of it is the technology and the connection, but this sense that, we need to go beyond our differences and come together. One substantial sign of that kind of closeness or connection, more good connection, is the formation of the United Nations, really recognizing every independent nation as part of the, coming to the table together. Also, another great sign is the formation of the Olympics, where almost all nations come together in healthy competition. I'd like to say also that another sign or evidence that this second blessing is being restored is the development of the blessing movement. As you know, Father and Mother Moon, they inherited this mission from Jesus and to really build God's kingdom and pioneer the marriage blessing movement, which encouraged people from different nations, even enemy nations and cultures to commit to marry each other and create families that represent the unity of those nations and cultures. I feel that the blessing movement is one of the greatest contributions, Father and Mother Moon, really moving humanity towards this dream of establishing one family under God. Let's continue to read about other signs that the second blessing is being restored. God has worked his providence to restore the heavenly sovereignty by degrees. He sends prophets and saints to the fallen world to found religions and raise the level of morality. He establishes governments with higher standards of goodness, which come to oppose and destroy regimes with lower standards of goodness. To fulfill the providence of restoration, therefore, conflicts and wars are unavoidable. So when I first read this verse, I was kind of struck by this part of conflicts and wars being unavoidable. You know, I definitely tend towards not wanting to engage in conflict, but basically the principle saying as we elevate in our awareness of goodness and our original mind strengthens, we naturally kind of become averse towards things that are not true, that are not heavenly. And so another point to principle, another sign that the restoration of the second blessing is happening is this development of this heavenly sovereignty. So it's not just individuals seeking towards goodness, but even nations that are establishing standards of goodness. So one example I would say is, Jesus came to elevate humanity's relationship with God as a father figure, right? And guided us with the two great commandments. Do you remember what they are? It's a verse in Matthew, basically, love God with all your heart. That's the greatest commandment. And the second commandment, great commandment, is love thy neighbor as yourself. Right? You might think, oh, that's normal, that's obvious, but actually that wasn't obvious back in the day. People didn't love their neighbor. I mean, even now, it's not so easy to love your neighbor. But there's at least guidance towards this is what's expected of us. To love God and to love people. If we follow these two great commandments, the kingdom of heaven will be at hand. So I believe that God sent these kind of people, historic figures, to really help us to elevate. And it didn't just end there, okay? I believe that the development of America as a Christian democratic nation with global influence is a substantial sign of God's sovereignty. So I wanna, one point here is that the US Constitution is actually the basis for almost all the constitutions of democratic nations around the world. And this constitution is what institutionalized that the government should be based on the sovereignty of the people. This is revolutionary. And I believe that that's based on this Christian ideals. And so America is not just, how do I say, blessed by God, not for its own sake. It's actually for the sake of the world that America has been blessed. So we should always remember that America has this providential role for the sake of the world. One great example of this is after World War II, America, after defeating Germany and Japan, I think it's one of the first times in history where the winning nation actually helped the redevelopment of the losing nation. Usually it's pillaging and over taxation and just taking all their resources, but America actually set the standard of helping the nation rebuild after winning a war. So this is really an example of godliness at the national sovereignty level. So this is another sign that the second blessing is being restored over time. Okay, let's read, I think there's one more example here. At present, our world is divided into two. The democratic world, which seeks to create societies on God's side, and the communist world, which has been establishing regimes on Satan's side. These two sovereignties with contrary purposes can by no means peacefully coexist. As human history nears its consummation, they will surely arrive at the point of intersection, colliding internally in the realm of ideology. This inner conflict may spur them to fight external wars with military forces. At the conclusion of this conflict, Satan's sovereignty will perish forever, and heaven's sovereignty will be reestablished as the one eternal sovereignty of God. Today, we are at this very point of intersection when these two worlds are confronting each other in the final battle. This is yet more evidence that the present era is the last days. So this is pretty amazing. The principle is prophesying that there will be this final battle between good and evil, or God-centered democracy versus communism or oppressive entities. And, one very real and relevant example of this is, Russia's invasion of Ukraine and the global response to support Ukraine. Yeah, it's kind of like, it's interesting. It all starts with this ideological conflict of one belief system versus another belief system coming in conflict with each other, and the principle says that it may show up in the form of an external conflict in war, and that's exactly what's happening right now. And one more example of that, in a recent World Summit where Mother Moon presided and hosted in Korea, she invited top leaders of the world, including the American Vice President and also former American Vice President, as well as the current Cambodian Prime Minister, Hun Sen. And the whole purpose of that summit was to talk about the peaceful reunification of North and South Korea. So this is a very real issue right now, and according to principle, this is also an example of this final battle, where literally in one nation we have one side representing communism and the other side representing God-centered democracy. So really, there's a lot of effort being put into making this a successful reunification. It's very complicated, but the principle is very real and relevant, is what I'm trying to say. It's not just a theology or a perspective, it is being practiced in real time. And so it's really important for us to understand what's happening from a principle perspective. And I'll just add one more thing on this topic. It may feel very anxious or tumultuous with Russia invading Ukraine, but in one sense, the response to that is a very hopeful sign that humanity, the world, is not going to just accept this as reality, but is actually supporting the resistance towards that effort. And in principle, it's, Satan's side always attacks first. And God's side is kind of responding to that, this kind of aggression in defending this kind of freedom and humanity and so on and so forth. So this is a really turning, this is a turning point in human history. Depending on the outcome of this conflict, this may actually expedite the coming of a God-centered world. So that's exactly what the principle is stating. And it's amazing that this principle, which was published, in the 50s or 60s, it's relevant today, and it's happening right now. Okay, so let's go to the signs of the third blessing. Sorry, the time is short, so I'm gonna try to wrap this one up. So remember that God's third blessing to Adam and Eve was to gain dominion over the natural world. This means having this heart towards creation of love, and also having the external capability to care for it. Both of these were lost at the time of the fall, but we can see a restoration of that dominion over creation in the present era. Let's read. Internal dominion denotes dominion of the heart. A person who reaches perfection will be able to love the creation with the same love as that which emanates from God's heart, and appreciates its beauty with the same delight as God. Let me ask you a question. How many of you love animals? I think people are growing in their appreciation and love for animals and for the natural environment. I can testify that I learned to love animals through Torah. I really didn't like pets, but he won my heart. But I think there is an increasing interest and care for animals. Before, it's always been a battle, man versus beast. But these days, it's more like the Discovery Channel, and look at all this beautiful nature and animals. And I remember I saw a show recently hosted by PAWS, the Progressive Animal Welfare Society. I don't think that existed 200 years ago. Who cared about taking care of, foster animals? But I think humanity's heart or elevation of love towards animals has increased over time. Also, there's definitely an increased interest in the care for our environment. There's many shows like Our Planet really showing how important it is that we take responsibility to preserve the natural environment. So another sign of the development of the third blessing is also not just our heart towards interest and care for nature, but our external ability to kind of manage and develop our natural environment. Let's read. External dominion denotes proper mastery of the creation through science and technology. People's spirituality is being elevated and their internal dominion over the creation is being restored. As a result, their external dominion is also being renewed, leading to today's highly advanced science. Modern people have built an extremely comfortable and pleasant living environment through the economic progress that has accompanied scientific development. Fallen people have thus been restoring their dominion over the universe, advancing toward the reestablishment of God's third blessing. Observing this, we are assured that the present era is the last days. So I mentioned this last week, but I want to reiterate. There's been so much development of science and technology in the past 200 years, and even more so in the last 40 years. One example of a more comfortable living environment. 200 years ago, kings and emperors, they didn't have flushing toilets. But that's available for everybody these days. Well, not everybody, but at least in certain countries it's available. But again, even the highest or the most powerful people in the past didn't have that basic comfort. Also, there's been a highly developed transportation and communication technology, which totally eliminates any barriers of time and space. Being able to fly halfway across the world in 14 hours. Cell phones didn't exist 30 years ago. The internet didn't exist 40 years ago. Imagine that. But one problem is there's too much tech and it's been invading my private space. People can call me at any time these days, so that's a problem. But Anyway, this development is not just for our convenience. This development in science and technology is so that we can better take care of our natural environment. And on that note, I wanted to just share just a couple quotes from Mother Moon about her concern over the environment. This is from a couple speeches that were very recent, the past year. Over time, humankind has devastated this beautiful earth. Step by step, this is becoming more serious. Climate change, rising sea levels, and especially natural disasters. All of this has resulted from humankind having no faith in God. I feel deeply concerned about whether our beloved children will be able to live healthy lives in the future. It is now time to put aside all greed and, as original sons and daughters, restore this beautiful earth before it is too late. So this is a very beautiful message of concern from Mother Moon. I want to really take heed of this and encourage all of us to make sure we do our part in fulfilling restoration of the third blessing and take good care of our earth. Finally, one point I'd like to conclude with is this passage from the Divine Principle. A family can be formed only when there is a father and a mother. Only then can true brotherly love arise. Only when Christ comes again as the parent of humanity will all people join together in one great family and live harmoniously in the global village. So I think this is a really powerful point. It's like, we can all be friends, we can all be brothers and sisters, we can all be part of the same, United Nations team from different nations. But the problem is, if there isn't a sense of connection with a parental figure, we'll always be kind of fighting each other or just kind of looking at our own interest. So Father and Mother Moon, they really came to stand in this role as true parents to really help bring everyone together as one family and to really provide an example of this unconditional and universal love to everyone equally. We need this kind of model in order to bring humanity together as one family. It can't just be sibling nations trying to vie for our own interests. There needs to be a parental figure to bring about peace. And that's exactly what, Father and Mother Moon were called to do, is to substantially stand in that role as a parental figure. And I think this is another major sign that really the world is moving towards that inevitable, or hopefully inevitable. Actually, maybe I'll end with this. God's been wanting to create this peaceful world forever, right? But the reason why it's been taking so long is because he can't just snap his fingers and make it happen. He needs to cooperate with our own portion of responsibility as human beings. So the more we're able to respond and live according to principle and towards that ideal, the faster we can bring about the kingdom of heaven on earth. So, so these are really the signs that the principle outlines, that the three great blessings have been developed over time. Let's go to the summary. Okay, so signs that the first blessing has been developed is elevated spirituality, elevated sense of freedom, and higher sense of human value. Examples of the second blessing developing is this sense of a growing global community, American Christian values having global influence, and the blessing movement itself. And finally, examples of the third blessing that it's been developing is there's an increased care for animals and the environment, and the development of science and technology has created a comfortable living environment, also bringing the world closer together. So, brothers and sisters, Father and Mother Moon, they responded to Jesus' request to carry out this blessing movement to finalize God's original plan of bringing about the kingdom of heaven on earth. One family under God. We are living in the last days where this dream will soon become a reality. We have the culture, we have the truth, we have the technology, but we need everyone's help to make this dream come true. Despite all the challenges we see in the world today, let's maintain a hopeful attitude by reminding ourselves how far we've come as a human race. And let's do our part in contributing towards this peaceful world. Thank you for listening, and may God bless you and your family this week.
Any breath now, Kimi. This was an incredible sermon. I really love that. It's parallels kind of Nostradamus' predictions, and it's amazing. Let's just go straight into our reflection. We're gonna jump into live reflection later, but right now let's take a moment to reflect on the question of what is one sign that you see that a better world is coming? What is one sign that you see that a better world is coming?
And when I called it was trying to use a number that I use for English, and that's why it's really trying.
One sign that the good world is coming is chaos when there's rumors of war.
I'll figure out it.
Okay, well, she says, I think we gotta continue with the program. Many people don't have time to stay here for long. While we are waiting for the partner who comes, they just send me some slides here that I have here on the cell phone. Very soon it's gonna be here and made a presentation. But while we are waiting for him, because from now to the time he's coming,
Right, while we're reflecting on this, let's hear some live.
maybe it might take 30 minutes or maybe 20 minutes. Let's go ahead and have our lunch and have little children second get also ready to get relaxed. Please, let's serve ourselves while we are waiting for the partner. Thank you. Yeah, we can continue our meeting about
Yeah, I think it's funny. Really, he wants to come and realize what
push everybody in it was a coming down. We make like meaning for it. Big ship. That's right. No, you know that they have a different components. They were fighting. This is the website. They were trying. You know, want to take over yeah. Physical and the kidnapping because the that was the problem. Said no, they accept that. The only reason they do the money you know, we see the situation, this is the I don't know if these first of all, America is you know even today, as long as
But we can look at them. They are not going to be interested. Do you know what is the percentage? Maybe help was the level. Even the student from China was back now.
I lost my
Sì, a la scegliere le No, mais quand même, c'est qui va se passer.
Ouais. On est fatigué. Dites-moi quand tu vas connaître la vérité. Le péché a dit, il y a tous les faux d'informations.
On est venu reconnaître votre autorité que vous êtes passé Est-ce qu'on n'a pas besoin de faut me dire, parce qu'il y a une seule question peut-être pas porter sa main. Il n'y a pas besoin d'être reconnu. On les ça c'est si on voulait qu'on puisse être reconnu, on devrait chercher à être reconnu. C'est pas ça qui me parle. C'est pour manger, le président arrive pour manger. Le président, il décide de rien.
Quand on vient nous donner les résultats de
Je dis,
donc on écoute déjà, mais ça change. Ça change.
La politique de Poutine, après avoir été négociation. La politique de Poutine.
Oui, on est plus que les résultats.
On pense qu'on a déjà gagné le terrain. Il faut commencer à utiliser. On vient là, on fait comme si on faisait.
Maintenant, il vient. Il vient maintenant. Et puis, quand on dit qu'on connaît les lectures
on va le connaître à la carte. Maintenant, ce qui est bizarre, on nous dit les témoignages. Comment tu témoignes au moment où tu es mort?
C'est ça.
On ignore ton existence.
On ignore. Et quand tu veux maintenant, tu vas voir tous les gens qui sont de tous les mouvements.
Il faut lui demander quand on va prendre, est-ce qu'on sera à peine de faire aussi le rapport finalement? Oui. C'est ce qu'ils m'ont fait en 2003. On s'est retrouvé à la Vegas. C'est-à-dire qu'il faut que je puisse aussi avoir le système, parce que n'a aucun qui avait mis le système en place. On fait le rapport. C'est-à-dire là, on s'est bon, ben, je suis conscient que le pays est dans la recherche. Mais avant de quoi, je ne peux pas faire le rapport. C'est la mentalité des colons. Nous sommes les barons. Avec Dieu, moi je suis toujours du côté des rebelles. Parce que depuis le temps de Jean-Baptiste, il ne faut pas dire Seigneur, Seigneur. Jean-Baptiste a vu le Seigneur, il a baptisé. Après tout, il dit, son frère. Celui que son père a violé sa maman là.
Non, ne parlez pas.
Et puis il a la valeur. Moi, je le dis.
The Southampton Manchester City. That's the FA Cup quarterfinal.
Les gens ne comprennent pas que lorsque tu montres, le noir est la première personne. D'où l'argent, c'est un moyen de camoufler le noir. Nous, si on te donne beaucoup d'argent, tu dis que laissez seulement ça, laissez seulement. Nos présidents nous tuent à cause de l'argent. Non, il n'y a pas la vérité là-bas. On découvre la maison, on met le sac d'argent là. Comme tu vas dire. Mais l'argent que tu travailles. La situation, c'est ce qu'ils sont en train de faire. Donc, si tu as beaucoup de voitures, tu dis que tu es riche.
Bon appétit.
Merci
All that. Now, not again. I don't do that way. You know, be frozen. Yes. Follow up. I want that cash. I get that. All that sketch, the way we can do, I see, and that's the same old. I will take it all. By anything, I go study, hobby. I'm aware. No, that's why I don't want to buy. He is kidding me. That's true. Les gens disent, il faut donc sous-estimer. Ouais, ils n'ont pas cru. Oui, c'est comme la Russie contre l'Ukraine. Je pense que tu n'as pas dit que c'est 2 jours. Il va vraiment traverser et arriver là-bas. Non, la résistance, il n'a pas. Il n'a pas de souci. La technologie, ça développe terriblement. Les gens prennent le feu seulement à la caméra. On parle de le capteur de c'est des mensonges. Si on met pied sur terre, la médecine ne bougera pas. Non, il n'y a pas même, ils ne savent pas comment faire. Ils ont tout vendu. Moi, je suis dans le terme d'Internet, donc qui passe. Donc, je parle. Et dans que tu vois, moi, le fond là, tu devais avoir un business, c'est dans le welcome, quand on était à l'UTM. Quand on était à l'UTM, ils ont endowment pour le collège était fini. Et ils devaient vendre. Non, laisse-moi pas vendre.
Yes, those who are finished eating, yeah. Yeah, please.
Yes.
Yeah, Jacob and all that.
Everyone, can you call all these people?
Well, it's going to take a minute to be set up, so I apologize for the delay.
Elijah, yeah. You have a remote? Yeah. Yeah. You have a remote, Elijah? Yeah, it's a remote.
Bring your food and take a seat. You can come with your food and take a seat, please.
Call everybody.
Okay, come. Yeah, put down the note. Yeah.
All right, brothers and sisters, maybe we're going to sing a song before we pass the microphone to the let's go and sing this song. Okay. Let's start singing a song of the God. How are you? Let's sing for the night. Let's sing God. God is in the my soul. Oh, that is as I go. Knowing that I will be wrong. Glorious song, ringing in my heart. Oh, my Father above. Gratefully I give offering to thee. I am my glorious song. I give me blessing. this journey. Our most precious, beloved Heavenly Father, our victorious proponents of abundance like mankind, we thank you for this amazing opportunity. Today, Sunday, March the 20th, 2022, and friends, we head towards the end of the third month of this year. When based on the promise we made to you on January 1st, most precious beloved and friends, we stand before you, and friends, to express our gratitude, but at the same time repenting for not only being thorough and friends, determined as for bringing the result that we promised to you. We are so grateful that we gather here on this day today, really feeding us with different words and friends, from our local health service, going to the national service, and right now you're giving us an opportunity to welcome our sub-regional directors, corporates, and that are coming before you, and specifically in this location. And the Prince will to give us a great message, specifically really guiding us towards the goal of the year 2022. Our most special Prince, we know that we are present. The Spirit of our beloved is present, and we want us really to rise up, Prince, as those who understood your call and will respond to that call. Our special Prince, please give us the strength not to deceive you, but only to be in alignment with your will every single day. We thank you so much for this wonderful opportunity. Please let the Holy Spirit be here. Let the Spirit of our beloved ones also guide us. We pray for all this on the bottom of our heart, upon the Victoria Foundation of our beloved Christ. In the name of all blessed Santa family that are in one name, Jean-Pierre and Calvin, Sola's family, blessed Santa family. Okay, once he says, the voice that you're going to hear is the voice of
Well, thank you very much. It's really wonderful to be with you again. And thank you, Reverend Shona, Catherine, Carolyn, for welcoming us here. Last week, we spent time in Charleston, South Carolina. We invited every pastor, every state leader across the sub-region. So there's 7 states plus the District of Columbia and Puerto Rico. And the sub-region paid for lodging and food. And unfortunately, Reverend Sona wasn't able to make it, and maybe next year. Hopefully it'll work out. But yeah, it was a wonderful experience. Enjoyed a very beautiful environment. We did Airbnb, had 32 people come, and the weather was terrible actually. It was rainy the first day, super windy the second, but Sunday morning it was beautiful. So yeah, and then on Zoom there were 5 people attending. So it's 37 total in attendance. But it was a nice environment. We had a nice mix. There were 7 DCs who were there with us as well. And thank you, Reverend Sona, for inviting the youth of your community to join this. It's not so picturesque in one sense, but it's great to be able to have an overview of not only the nation, but what we're going to be doing individually as communities and as areas across the sub-region. This is a draft statement still, but we're talking about building a peaceful world by empowering families through true parents' teachings and the Holy Marriage blessing. So it's education and blessing. That's our key focus and key responsibility. And it's a nice, simple statement, I feel. And the Family Fed, as an organization, wants to empower individuals through the divine principle towards an authentic relationship with God, who is our heavenly parent, to empower single people to prepare for committed love through the marriage blessing, and to empower couples through the marriage blessing to create lasting love, true love in their families. And 4, to empower parents to raise their children with love and principle. And 5, to share that with healing, reconciliation, and joyful experiences and service throughout communities. So when we look at how we can do that, number one goal for this year is to develop leadership. You can look around the room, and some of us are getting more and more gray hair. So, and some of us don't have much hair at all. But either way, it's a sign of aging. And we'd like to have young leaders capable of doing more than what I've been doing, what Reverend Sona's been doing, and what our organization's been doing in the past. Some others call this the golden age, and it really is a time where whatever our skills and abilities are, if we offer them to heaven, they can be developed and utilized by heaven for the accomplishment of a big change. And it's very interesting to me, even in the world of people, spiritualists, and people who read horoscopes, etc., this next few years, up till 2027, is a time of incredible change. So many people have this sense that somehow the manifestation of good will be able to overcome all evil, and that we're really entering a new era of humanity. And certainly True Mother is asking us, working very specifically, and as we know, one of the main goals of 2027 is to be able to see and experience peacefully reunited North and South Korea. And of course, the good news is that in the March elections of the Korean president, the person who's elected president of South Korea is actually very receptive for heaven's way of unifying North and South Korea. So Mother's goal is taking shape very quickly. And Mother said by 2023, she wants to see the peaceful reunification of North and South Korea, which is incredible when you think about it. That means basically in the next 18 months or 20 months, Mother is expecting to see the collapse of it's very partisan. So these are all connected. Mother's vision of a peacefully reunified Korea connects with leadership. There's brand new leadership in South Korea politically, not entirely, but the president has changed. Younger, clearer, more capable of listening to the guidance of heaven. And so when we talk about our leadership development, and again, Reverend Sona, thank you very much for inviting the young people, because having a perspective on what the nation's thinking about can help us all become more connected and also more purposeful, more intentional in our daily activity, so that we're not just doing things because we think it's good, but it's in alignment with heaven's will. So, morning devotion. Dr. Young is asking everyone, as you hear regularly, please invite others to join us on the morning devotion. There are ways you can do that. Of course, there's morning devotion 6 a.m. on Zoom. It's available daily on YouTube, but it's also available as a podcast. So there are various ways in which you can listen. Because some people have intense work schedules and would like to be able to listen to it while they're going to work. So there's a condensed version, as a podcast, many ways to listen to it. But please think about that during the course of the year, how can I invite 3 more people to join? But not actually just invite them, but actually get them to begin listening. Dr. Ashiel discovered that his son's very busy in the day, but he and a couple other PCs were interested in taking a shot at it, taking a quick look at morning devotion by Dr. Ashiel just reviews the day, picks out just a small clip, and then they watch that together at 11 p.m. and then have a short discussion. So that's one way where he's engaging people who don't make, an hour and a half approximately every morning from 6 to 7:30 to watch it. So the point is, let's be creative and utilize all the different ways in which we can study. And the next goal, maybe you heard that President now Keeley developed a 13-week class, once a week class for approximately an hour and a half. What's good leadership? It's called Accelerate. And 163 people, I believe, certainly over 150. Our goal was to have 150 people at least sign up to participate. But the idea is it really looks at what's a good leader, and particularly what's a good pastor. So there's a focus beyond just being a good pastor, but there's certainly that because Reverend Sona just looks like he's about 35 or so. He could be older. And I'm 67 now, so my time is limited. So we need qualified leaders, not just putting people in positions where they scramble to earn on the job. So that's the benefit of this. This will be offered annually. So if your son or daughter didn't sign up this year, help them think about next year or the year after. So there's that. And then Dr. Young has asked every district to establish a youth center. And that means a place, a physical location that's focused on enabling youth to come together, have activities, and education. So Dr. Young's coming here April 22, 23, and 24. There's the Maryland CARP Center, where we'll use that as the official youth center for this district. And next is establishing CARP in every state. So Dr. Young's doing a tour of the nation, as you've seen, going to each district. And he'll be here April, and perhaps the weekend after he's here, the following weekend, he'll be in Atlanta. So those are the two districts. District 4 is this area, the more southern area, Florida, South Carolina, Georgia, Puerto Rico is District 5. So they'll be there. But after that, there'll be a short break probably, but then he'll be focused on going to every single state and district. And so he'll be coming back here summer. No one has any idea of the specific schedule for that. But this is a real focal point for the next year. Stay in touch with Dr. Shield. He's coordinating some brothers and sisters from Upshur in the community to find out what's going to be the best university or college to put a CARP center on. So we want to establish not so much a physical location, but just initially to have a place where people can go. Now, related to this, after we made the national goals, Dr. Young said, as you, I'm sure, have heard, every family bring 3 new young people. Witness to 3 young people. And so that's going to be connected to this. So if there's a CARP program at Howard University or George Washington University, wherever it's chosen, because I'm not going to choose it, and it needs to be local members figure out what's the best location to give the maximum support, where are the most students, and where can the community offer support. Because one important part of restoration is the mother-son cooperation. And so Dr. Young has asked, particularly the mother nation, Japan, the Japanese sisters and brothers that are living here in America, to really work with focus on witnessing on campuses to fulfill this condition of establishing a CARP center. So the first condition is to create a holy ground and pray there, which we'll be doing shortly, hopefully in a week or so in this area. And then next step will be to begin witnessing. if they're already students, VCs or ACLC contacts, whatever, then we'll be able to quickly appeal to the administration to formally institute a club called PARC, and it have recognition and therefore can utilize the campus facilities according to schedules, so that we could use a meeting room or a classroom for educational purposes. We can publish in the campus bulletins and use feeds that there is an event, and it can be put on the campus calendar. So we're not there yet in many places around the nation, but that's our goal. But the key point is there needs to be witnessing. And if you're a student at college, you're already very busy. So community support will be extremely valuable. So please, especially the parents and teenagers and college students here, think how you can rearrange your schedule in the coming months to include some outreach. And we'll organize it, and let's work together to create, an active, regular, consistent, whether it's once a week or once a day, whatever your schedule allows. We'll be working together to create this so that CARP really becomes a reality, not just a dream and a goal. And the last point was 40 plus UTS leadership course enrollments. So UTS is changing its format a little bit, and Unification Theological Seminary is now offering classes related to church leadership. So if you have a college degree, that's an option for development. And President Naukini is hoping that from this 150 plus students of Accelerate, 40 will enroll, which is approximately 25%, will enroll in the next level, which is master's degree level. And the second goal is preparing singles for the college cosmic blessing. And our national headquarters is developing a program, so just online or via YouTube, by video, we can offer people clean, clear, simple education for understanding the meaning of the blessing, the value of the blessings. And locally, we want to, and of course nationally too, but particularly across sub-region 2, we want to increase matching supporters. Dr. Young's very clear that if we're going to prepare single people for the blessing, they need support. Many parents have not had either much experience or much confidence in talking to other parents about who's a good match for my child. And particularly, there's blood lineage being established through the blessing. And it's important to preserve that. So that goal is that second gen and third gen, they marry each other. And, in America, the assessment is that there are over 10,000 second gen here in America. But if you've been to blessing ceremonies in the last 20 years, you've noticed a lot of them aren't there. So there's a lot of potential just within our own communities, brothers and sisters, sons and daughters, who could use some help finding a good spouse. And so Dr. Young asked Keiko to head up matching supporters, but we're not looking for the standard matching supporter that's been typical of the past few years from working with the Blessed Family Department, because theirs was a kind of a passive role of answering questions. But Dr. Young really believes that through prayer and sincere effort and study, and making good conditions, then parents can become very good matching supporters because they take initiative. And so to me, it occurred to me that we should change the name to matching initiators, because the name nationally is matching supporters, but Dr. Young's looking for people who will be looking around and looking on the internet, looking internationally, and it's amazing. Keiko's been doing this for, I guess, 4 or 5 months now. And she has friends in Africa, Japan, Korea, Europe, because she knows somebody who knows somebody. But she spends an hour or so every day because parents call her and say, my son or my daughter is this age, they've done this, they've got that degree, they're working here, they had this difficulty, they overcame this way, and they're ready, they would consider being matched and less. Can you help us? Because the parent is calling because they don't have the resources to quickly find a good match. And as we know, there are more and more BCs over 30. And you may know that if you want to get matched in America, there's 4 times as many girls as boys interested in matching on the matching websites. So that's why, particularly women have limited choice in a sense. So, but there are actually an almost equal number of male and female VCs in America. But the boys just aren't signing up to get matched. So, but their parents know who they are and where they are and what's level of commitment and thinking they are. So we can use our relationships as parents to understand how to take care of brothers and sisters. So it's a giant step forward. It's very exciting. And they're developing a new online matching system. And then this enroll 1,200 singles in the system. So we've got, ILSHIM program for middle schoolers, a devoted program for high schoolers. We've got lesson level 1, lesson level 2. There's a whole series of opportunities to discover more about relationships. So that's the 1,200 singles in this year is the number of people who participate in one of those programs. They don't have to actually sign up as a blessing candidate, but somewhere in the system. And then, again, as I mentioned, we're looking specifically at blessed children who are not yet blessed. So that's every age, from 18 up. People are ready at different points in their life to get blessed. So there's a lot of talk. So please connect with Keiko. Please help your neighbors. It's an important subject and it's an important goal, but actually for the development of true families, it's critical that we keep this always in the back of our mind. And it's amazing, even the workshop that we had just last weekend, in the course of conversations about goals, 2 parents said, my daughter or my son, my daughter or my son is living here and they've been thinking about the blessing, but they didn't really want to go through the online matching system. What could they do? Perfect question, because we have many resources now that we didn't have a year ago to help people. So you can also might increase your church membership because one was here in college in Washington, D.C. So there's possibilities to connect with people who, they came from another state, but they're here, and they might be interested in attending church, and might be interested in carp activities. There's lots of opportunities to connect with these people. So number 3, I'm sorry. Now, our goal locally, thank you, is for the sub-region is to prepare 40 couples, 40 people from sub-region 2 to attend next year, which will, there's one blessing a year for BCs. Heavenly Tribal Messiahship's great. We can bless people. However, 2 parents are asking that we reserve the blessing of BCs exclusively for true parents. So that's why just once a year, right now, that's how many blessings there are available for 2nd, 3rd, 4th Jan. New blessed couples who've completed 43 days. So we want to streamline it. We've seen this go from 2.5-day seminars down to 30 minutes. we're trying to make a more clear standard program that would be available to anyone. So that this is not just ACLC. This is ethnic ministries, Heavenly Tribal Messiah. It's your family, your cousins, your relatives, your coworkers. These are all, there are people everywhere who are spiritually prepared. Mother said this years ago and says it now too. You know, John the Baptist is prepared. So if we keep asking people, we'll meet these John the Baptists. And I'm sure you've seen through some of the ACLC events that some people, it's very easy for them to understand the meaning of the fall and the power of the blessing. So that's a really great opportunity to increase this 1,200 new blessed couples. So it's a main membership, but President Naukimi isn't thinking of just to get blessed. He's concerned about their long-term spiritual well-being and would like to invite people who've been blessed to join our churches. So the national headquarters is developing a membership class for people that you've blessed, so that they could take a look at not just you as a wonderful person who is able to bless their marriage, but you as someone who loves Christ, who loves God's providence, and loves a community that could embrace them and give them long-term support. So again, national goal, 400 new local family-fed church members. So it's a big look at, if you divide that by 50, that's only 8 members per state. But it does say local members. So that means people who are coming at least once a month to your church service, and they're actually giving money to support your church community. So that's the goal there. And our goal for the whole sub-region is 50. So 50, right. So it's not really a big number. You may know that the New York, New Jersey area has twice as many family members as the southern area from West Virginia to south. And the same thing is true in California. California, between LA and San Francisco, they have more than twice as many families as we do throughout the entire sub-region too. But either way, people will benefit from growth. So we also, another focal point is engaging young families. And so we want to develop more family-friendly national and local services. We are working to appoint sub-regional and local family coordinators whose primary focus is find out what do young families need, what do they want, and take care of those. Use your resources within your community to create the programs that meet the immediate needs locally. So national headquarters can offer some educational support, some ideas, but real activity, as always, is grassroots. But also we're not limiting it. So some people know that I know down in Florida, they have a large group of VCs that never come to church very much, but they have young families. So they're organizing. Florida's way ahead of us in the appearance of spring. So they've already organized a barbecue there to invite families with small children. They organized face painting, different activities to excite the children so that the parents and the children both are happy to be together. So it's not actually a church service, it's a service to the children. So please think in your community, as you've already done, obviously, to have this many young people sitting through my long talk, you've got, a good program, but consider how to enhance it and multiply it. And it's true, many churches across America grow because they take care of children very well. So the parents are comfortable to go to Sunday service, they can trust the children are cared for, and the parents find a community that's appreciative of young children. And so developing the meaningful programs, and we're working also at the sub-regional level to track who is new, who's coming. So Reverend Sona and your data team have access to a database that tracks who came to church and just the basic information, a name, address, and phone number, and email, so that we can use that to follow up. And it's not for the national, it's going to be for the local pastors' use. And we want to, again, look at donors. Who are the people who come to some Sunday service and make big donations, who can come and make some donations, who come and don't make donations. There are many ways to offer, but cash is needed to build heaven still right now. And then related to that cash is, True Mother is really working hard to create Heavenly Unified Korea. And our goal for this year is for Subregion 2. I hope you've seen and heard that Dr. Young asked sub-regional leaders to pick an area. And so we picked the Dominican Republic as a country to support. And we're sending $5,000 every month to the Dominican Republic. But the sub-region has very little income. And so we're asking 100 families across sub-region 2 and at least 10 families from this community, if you could donate $50 a month for 12 months. So that would provide $5,000 every month to the Dominican Republic. The Dominican Republic was picked because they already have a significant workshop site. They have a camp, and it's basic, but with $5,000 a month, they're able to they actually host seminars for all of the Caribbean and Central America, but also even BCs and their guests come from Bolivia, Peru, and even some of the northern areas of South America, because they have a good program, they have good teachers, they have a decent facility, and with $5,000 a month, they're able to offer a very consistent program that provides really healthy food and a good environment, and they're working to make the workshop site a lot nicer. They spend about 2/3 of the money on putting on the workshops, and about 1/3 of the money they're using to improve the facilities. So this is a long-term project, actually. I'm sure you recall, some of you, that Dr. Balcom had declared that we would donate $10 million by 2027 to the world, to help other countries around the world. So this is our contribution. We're sending $60,000 in 2022 to the Dominican Republic. We'll probably, the way HSA works, I proposed to the board of directors of HSA that I would send that much money to that place, and the board of directors approved, and they do it for 1 year grant. So every year we'll have to get an approval for wherever we're, as a sub-region, we're focused on sending money. But that's what we're focused on right now. And then GPA, because we were sending money to Dominican Republic, the GPA thought they should send some missionaries. So I hope in a few, there's a lot happening in the next 30 days, like big blessing in Korea, April 16th. So probably shortly, I hope shortly after that, and perhaps before, we'll have some GPA missionaries who went to the Dominican Republic come and give a presentation on what they did, and also they can comment on the reality of the workshop, the experience they had, what kind of outreach they did in the Dominican Republic, but also the impact that area is having. So I hope we'll have some very good reports. We get a couple of pictures right now from Dominican Republic, but we'd like to have a good presentation that will build up in the next few months to be able to show anyone who wants to know what's happening to the money I'm sending. We can show you very concretely. And then missionaries are going to other places in the world too with GPA. So if your students are thinking of what to do when they turn 18 or if they're finishing high school at 17 or whenever, a year or two on the Generation Peace Academy is an excellent training opportunity. Many colleges respect it. And you will, as a parent, appreciate the good education and the careful guidance of a church program that really helps people reach a new level personally, in terms of personal commitment to God, personal relationship with God, personal commitment to serving in the world. It's a life-changing experience for many people. A very good way to spend 1 or 2 or 3 years. Some people go for 1 year, and then one more, and then one more, and then one more, and then they go to college. But also, and supporting Heavenly Global Missions, as this community and others are aware, it's important when we own a property to actually use that property for us to make money, not just for us to spend money to use a building on Sunday and Saturday and Friday night or Wednesday evening or whatever, periodically, but actually President Nakini's goal is that every facility will give money. So it's not, the community doesn't survive on donations from its members only, but the building helps pay for the pastor's salary. As you know, most pastors in our churches aren't paid so much. So if we could use that to pay more, we could do more. So that's it. So there's a quick summary, and Keiko can offer a little perspective from the Heavenly Mother side. And final conclusion before I go, I would like to say that Dr. Young came back from Korea, and he said that he endured 7 days of quarantine, and he brought a black tiger tie for each of the sub-regional directors, and Mother sent a beautiful scarf for that. So, oh, sorry, it's similar. But the True Mother designed this. She worked with some C's to design it. Wow. So, if you'd like one or if you'd like a scarf, let me know. There's a chance that I'll be going to the blessing in Korea in April. And we'll see what the schedule is. Right now, all Dr. Young has said is prepared to go, but there's no awareness of anything. And what I've heard is still a 7-day quarantine. So we'll find out. But I'd like to bring back a gift for at least a few of you. Maybe we can have a raffle or something when I come back. Wow. Cheers. Yes. Well, thank you.
Good morning, brothers and sisters. Actually, already some state decided campus, but Washington D.C. not yet. So please talk with which is decided. So far it's the George Washington University because of our second James professor there. So easy to ask. Alex Koromoa, and also the two already, I and one more brother is there, they're going to the George and Washington University. So one more, then they can make a cup. So that's why they decide almost, but not yet. So another brother, sister also, they want the Harvard University. So Yuriko-san already know, contact the professor. She's already attending the Divine Principle and also the UBA. So I think it's easy to ask to the, So which one, please involve, then you can decide which is that. Okay. Yeah. And also, my husband and talked a lot, but I don't want to, forget. Just the key point I want to tell. And the established CAP in all states with the mother and child cooperation, and one family witnessing 3 people. That is the more many. So, and already from the few months ago, 6 months ago, and to Dr. Young always calling to the subregion leader wife, and also the now every Thursday, Dr. Young giving the 1 hour, and really encourage you are the nation of the mother nation. So you have to go the CAP then, and embrace to the brother sister. So, and already Hiraki-san and California, she was Japanese sister, and she made already few years. Then now 7 CAP. Most that is that developed so many young people there. So I think through this now, and Dr. Young asking all American states make the established CAP chapter. So I think the key is the history is the mother help the child, or even did a good job. That's why Cain Abel, her son, killed each other because of mother is affair. Also Noah too. Noah's wife is not helping the Noah father. She not embrace children, bring to the the Noah. So it's fair. That's point is the victory is a mother and child cooperation. So that's why I'm begging the Japanese sister, please go the Columbia Church member together work. So some sister is really happy to come to work with you, and so especially you work together, the Kumi-san and Nanai-san and Yuriko-san. I asked and because you know very well. So I said, please work together because of this is Dr. Young's pushing, not this church, about he said, go all state and work with the brother sister and bring to the God and to parents, and also each family 3, and next is cosmic blessing. This is a second, third generation blessing. Dr. Young asking me and matching. He doing also. He also said 3 people witnessing. I'm doing. Honestly, you have to do. Now, Kim, you have to do. Every now, even Milhan going to now with the Japanese sister. Yeah. Ayako-san, together she going to. So they make the very nice student. So, and I didn't know about the blessing, second, third blessing, but he asking me, then I don't have any candidate. So I started my daughter. Then, but my daughter is 18 years old. But, and actually I learn a lot. And if I'm not Dr. Young, if you didn't push me, I didn't know this is so serious because of the two mother, father's main job is blessing. And also, and God is so history, somebody with God's village. But we have so many, even sub-region too. We have the 500 children candidate, but you know how many people? Even last year, 7 people. Even this year, it's 12 people. Among the 500, this is the serious program. I really felt how to make God soulful. It's the and we can take off the liberate God. This is your children, and also the second, third generation. If they're blessing, how much God is so strong heart to really liberate. So please, you are maybe children, if you feel led to church, please bring it. Please bring it. This is the mother is really, really asking us, second, third generation. So, and every Tuesday, and Mrs. Young, and how much important God village. That is the 3 hour every week, Tuesday, 3 hour. She's really sharing. So now I was really, really realized what I did. I did witnessing, I did but how about our children? I'm witnessing, I'm going to campus, but how about our children? So please, most important is your children and also the who already, left to the second, third generation. Please bring something and like the invite to the and maybe it will be very difficult. Maybe the second generation, somebody invite to them, then making that together, something with a group, something talk, something with, example, second gen, please ask them, call them, or you have to visit them. It's really, really important. So, and of course, we're going to young people witnessing, but most important is that our God's village children. So, bring them, and next year we will have the great ceremony. So, who mistake? But if they attend the great ceremony, they can become the second generation. So they can have chance to so please, important, connect and bring to the second generation. And also how to bring the second generation, that is and Dr. Young said, if we are the really Cain witnessing, Cain spiritual children witnessing, they will back because we have to do the divine please go away. So I want to witnessing because of I want to back, our second gen. So second gen, please, Cain is that we have to love. That is the key. And also I matching the 10, more than 10 people, but they are still processing, like the Tetsuya, the Virginia. Tetsuya and I engaged the Japanese sister, or Japanese second gen. So he's now in Japan. He's now the engaged ceremony. He going to this week. And also the one Maryland also and second gen. I in matching with the Philippine the second gen. So if best way is the parents matching because the father said, okay, I'm not to do anymore. This is the parents' responsibility. Parents, So through this processing, I really felt this is the restore children, parents, the relationship. Before that, like the Philippine, the second gen, parents is the not cheap, but after that broken, and she got this very hurt. So she didn't do that almost 10 years. Not talk about blessing, but through this process, I introduced the candidate. So, and their mother is the pray. Mother is with tears and repent to pray. And she made the also fasting for me, for my spouse. And she is the really doing. So through this, children, it's really good. That's the they are now parents, children, really good relationship. So, sister, brother, sister, please, this parent is the key. Parents should find your children. This is the also really, and parent children the disorder. Some other, yeah, no, because even my children, we always just the front line. So children, I didn't take care. Children take care of children. They remember. I did my sister diaper change, I made milk, so they remember. So they are actually, this church, it's the really broken family, the church, that's their memory, because of I didn't take care. So I now really repent. I went many times to Houston. I was serving them, and just only I take care of them, grandchildren. Because of that, I really feel sorry to them. So through the not divine principle, I'm not talking on any father's word. Just only serving. Even I was get the basic there system, but I just serve. So they feel something. So finally, my son said, "Mom, I think we need to live together." So this is and through parents and heavenly parents idea, third generation live together. So through that, I really feel my mistake. I didn't really. Mrs. Young said, even I have so much investment in public work, but I did 120%, 120%. I investment in my children. Even they came back from club, sports, so dirty. So she's so tired, but nighttime she's washing their dirty clothes, then prepare for their next what do they like the food. Actually, then also if she has time, she is playing with the children game. I never think about it. I never have memory anything that I play with the children. Yeah, even that I went to we went to the few open and the beach. Yeah, beach. Children and he is a play, but I already thinking and next what should I do? What I need to prepare. I'm not mind story today. So that's why I think that their memory also always, and they are not love me, they love the more church. That's my children do the thinking. So, and Mrs. Young said, the most front line is the family. That she pushing me, teaching me that how much God really prepare for the blessing and family, husband, wife, and family. But children, it's not inheritance, and so I think that really we have to change the front line. It's the family. really God take care of children, not to the even principal father's work. Just that she said, attending children. What? They attending me, right? No. We are attending them. So they said that, please do this. I want to do the ballet, So I have to drive, right? So even we don't have any money, but the children said, I want to be ballerina. So how can I, get money? Actually, the really parents, it's the God, it's the really attending us. Attending us. So like Mrs. Yon said, what do they want to do? I pray and also the game together. Anyway, it's so they are close. So my mistake is I really want to, even my grandson, I want to invest in the grandson. So through that is, and my son, my children look at what I'm doing, so they can do their grandchildren. That's the now I have to restore. So anyway, and this blessing is the, if your children 16, 17, that time is most, they are very sensitive. They are looking for the man as a woman, woman as a man. That time is the please, give to that and something hope. Like my kid, 18 years old, and you are already 18. I think you need the prepare blessing. So she's so exciting. She got the job, she got the his high school, but she got the college also already doing college, community college, and so and by the computer, and she attended already college, and she's now almost full time with her and target working. So she preparing the money. So that's why that time is the most important. If children become the old, they are so picky. They are more ideal, I want to be, but not so easy. But the young time, it's more easy. Yeah, so please 16, 17, your children, please encourage, prepare. Yeah, I asking them, what kind of person you like? She's so excited. So please listen, because I didn't listen. My son said, I like this. I don't want to who cannot speak English enough. You are the mother is not speaking English enough. So I need to really speak English. But I always face, from Japan. But mother, I told you. So please listen to that. Yeah, children and. Children have also idea. I want to be like this. That's why please, this kind of person or they say. And so I think that I know now, and also Africa who is the responsibility like me. So she know a lot. So if you need spouse, so if you cannot find it, I can help you. Yeah, and also I know Brazil, also whose responsibility, Europe and Korea, Japan. So through that is, I learn a lot. Who is I need to connect. Yeah, so I can help you. And also I want to the pastor wife and the church leaders, also mother figure. I want to be the really matching supporter. You don't need to pay, just a 5-hour lecture, attend it, then you know how to do. Yeah. And so at least 3 people, please making the matching supporter. So far it's your church, nobody matching supporter. This is really important. So through this, you can get information a lot. Yeah, please see your wife. Like really your church next to send to that, maybe at least 3, please send it. Now the Maryland I matching and then